And good morning. Welcome to another live broadcast by myself, Robert Newman, the tax partner of Carter, Collins and Meyer. Today's webinar is how to build £1 million practice. Unlike some of the previous webinars I've done, where I've had lots of slides and screens and preparation, I have those, but 7 minutes ago, to be precise, my internet link collapsed. And despite trying to start the router over and over and then eventually ringing the internet providing company, I have been unable to get it going again. It turns out the whole area where I live has gone down and they think it's going to be tomorrow. Now, I am unable to contact you kind people who have joined this because I can't get on the full version of Zoom, only this version that's on my phone. And because of that, I can't even postpone. So I didn't want to have nothing at all for you. I'm just going to talk instead. This clearly means that you are going to get my amazing mug for the next 35-40 minutes, as opposed to what I normally do, which is minimize myself and have myself down in the corner. It also means I may miss out on some of the topics that I was due to cover, but I have written them out on the back of an envelope, quite literally. So please do bear with me for today. This is a subject that is very close to my heart and one that I have previously run as a full day's training. Indeed, I think you could spend even longer than that on it. I have also written a book in this regards, 57 Ways to Grow Your Business. I've written several different things. I think I'm up to 18 business books at this point, but this one particularly I give away to our clients because I think it applies not just to professional service firms, but to others as well. For those of you watching who would email me at robert.newman@uk-ccm.com. That's robert.newman@uk-ccm.com. I'll happily send you a link out to download a PDF from that. I will be referring to it today. There's several others that I may or may not refer to. I can't see them on my bookcase next to me, so it might be harder for me to get hold of. I'm going to set my stall out initially to get going on this. I wholly believe that whoever owns the sales of a business truly owns that business, regardless of the legalities of whatever situation you may have. If you have a pipeline of work coming into your business, regardless of whatever that business may or may not be, and you control that pipeline, you are the true owner of that company, because it would be so easy for you to simply step out, go across the road and go again. Now, for an accountant to say that, you may be surprised, but I truly do believe that. One of the greatest examples that I personally had was I was an associate partner. This was kind of the beginning of my own formal entrepreneurial story. I think my own entrepreneurial story goes back to being about 10 years old and selling sweets in the playground stuff. But I was an associate partner in a substantial regional firm of accountants who got bought out by a national consolidator, as was the vogue at that time. We all got called to a local hotel, given red and green badges when you arrived. Green was for go, which is what I got. They called us into the green room, told us we were going, and we all left and took with us the clients that we had grown accustomed to and familiar to, which meant that the turnover of this individual practice in 1 year went from 15 million to 4 million. And from there began, truthfully, my own entrepreneurial story. So bear that in mind if you are growing and developing your own business. The last thing you ever give out is the sales process, in my opinion. That doesn't mean you can't bring in help. That doesn't mean you can't have other people to it. Part of this talk will be the tools that are useful. I'm not an IT geek, so we're not going to particularly talk about IT type stuff. I'm talking generally. I am a huge believer in direct marketing. If you have never looked at the work of Drayton Bird, do so. There's a lot of free stuff he gives. You may want to then go on from there. Drayton Bird himself refers a lot to David Ogilvy. David Ogilvy, Ogilvy Mather, one of the most influential marketing and advertising agencies ever created. One of the more famous quotes from David Ogilvy himself is something that I do also subscribe to and say to all new business owners, which is that 50% of marketing and advertising is an entire waste of time. The trouble is, you don't know which 50%. And bear that in mind in things that you do, because you do have to test and trial if you are undertaking direct marketing for small businesses. And please accept, I know that a lot of the people on this call are professional practices, and I know what this particular talk is geared towards being professional practices. But in my opinion, small business marketing is small business marketing. And whether you are a box shifter, a book seller, a professional practice, or a retailer of snazzy cardigans, I think the process is very, very similar. So to begin, there's 4 parts of this particular talk. As I say, I'm aiming for about 45 minutes. It may not be the version that I do subsequently, as I say, I'm planning it from my extensive notes. But the very first part that I wish to talk about is mindset. Mindset, I think, is one of the massively overlooked areas in small businesses. You're on this call today, or links as well, so it's worth going and having a look at my YouTube channel, which is simply Carter, Collins and Meyer. Because you are interested in growing and developing your professional service firm. Well, why? If you're a startup and you have no clients at this point, I can really see that, because you're now it's get some income into the business at all, earn some money so that I can pay the bills and keep the lights on and all the rest of it. I get that, but this is specifically entitled How to Build a £1 Million Practice. So you're not just trying to get income. If you're watching this, you're actually thinking, I want to be something more. I want to be something bigger. Well, why do you want to do that? What is the purpose of that? What are you trying to achieve? Now, I have done that on 3 different occasions with individual firms, and spent an awful lot of time thinking through my own situation of why I was setting out to create firms of that scale and size, and not having something that was more lifestyle. Because believe me, there is a price to creating a business or an entity of that scale. Don't just look at the end point or the beginning point to this. I spent a period of time with the military. I was in the army, and I was once told by one of the sergeants, it's very easy to be a para, and it's very easy to be a civvy. The hard bit is the bit in the middle. Same applies. It's very easy now. My combined businesses turn over nearly 3 million quid. It's very easy now to be the business owner of that and tell people what to do and where to go about, and sit and talk to you people and lecture about how clever that I can be in creating larger businesses. The process of getting there is tortuous, long, and certainly not a straight line. It's very much this. It's up and down. There's been periods of time where I have been basically broke, came as close to formal bankruptcy as you possibly can without actually going there. There's been periods of time where I've been depressed, stressed. I wanted to do it for in analyzing myself, very specific reasons that had nothing to do with finance. Mine was more about once you looked at this, mine was far more about self-actualization and proving to myself that I had the ability to do things that others couldn't, and finding freedom and a whole load of other stuff that I could sit with a psych and talk about for days and days about. But it wasn't the money. It never has been. Money's lovely, but it's never has been the money. So if you are setting out to build a professional service firm beyond simply income, why? What for? What is the purpose? And when you get there, what are you going to do with it? Because one of the issues you always have with all businesses is not only the getting in, but the getting out. And you need to be considering from the beginning, what is the purpose of this business that you're creating, and how are you not only getting into it, but how are you getting out of it? Everybody seems to think that I come across that's not from the M&A world, and I've done nearly 300 M&A deals by this stage, mergers and acquisitions, I know. Everyone seems to think that you're going to get a large check at the end of your career, your entrepreneurial career, and look, here's the payoff. There you go. There's a large check. Well, unfortunately, businesses don't sell like that. There's the odd one, and you get the odd story. But businesses sell on what's called deferred consideration. That is, a lump of money is given upfront, usually small, quarter, third of the total price, and the rest of it is paid off on the drip. Which means you're entrusting your life's work to somebody else, that they're going to look after it, nurture it, grow it, and develop it, and pay you. Now, from being engaged to find reasons not to pay people for this, I can tell you, I don't think there is any deal I have ever seen or talked about with people from my world where the vendor, the seller, has actually got the entirety of the consideration. Unless, and there is a route that I would propose for this, but that won't produce the sparkling, spectacular results that most people think. Yeah, fine. If you can grow it to a big enough scale to turn it into a floated company, you might be able to exit at that point with something, but very few get to that point. And very, very, very few professional service firms get to that point. Because the trouble with professional service firms is the scalability is much harder because they depend on what's in there. It's not like box shifting, whereby you're selling a box that goes over and over and round, and you can scale it up easier. And I'm not denigrating that at all, because that's not an easy thing. So if you are setting out to create this thing, what is it you're trying to do? What lifestyle do you want at the end of it? Because if it's you want to spend more time on the golf course, and by the way, I hate golf, but if it's you want to spend more time on the golf course, you probably can find that at a lower level of income with a lot more of a lifestyle-led business. Now, if you do decide that you have the reasons that want to encourage you to create this, or you are a startup simply looking for how do I get some more income through, the tools section of this, well, the next 3 sections in truth are probably more important to you. I get that. And I'm not saying that nobody should ever look at to do this, but examine carefully first before you begin what it is that you are trying to do. What is the reason? Having done that, I talk a lot, or I message a lot on forums and startup business forums and growth forums and all this kind of thing. And I wrote what essentially ended up as nearly 1,000-word essay in responses to a person recently who had created a brand, and they were going to sell brand t-shirts. Now, I do it like that because this person was obsessed with their brand and how amazing their logo was and how wonderful their style was and all this kind of stuff, but didn't understand why nobody wanted to buy it. They had spent £25,000 as a startup business putting together a website and logos and designs and all this wonderful stuff, and nobody wanted to buy it. And I put the question to them, very simply, why should I buy your product? And they didn't know. They couldn't answer it. They couldn't come back to me and say why anybody should buy their product. So I was trying to get them to do an exercise, which I would get you to do. Write down, you should buy my, whatever you do, will writing, accountancy, book publishing, because you should buy my, because, ... and write the reason. You can't come up with why you should buy it. Another way of formulating this is, how does it help? Think about it in terms of help. So, direct self. Helps small businesses within Greater Manchester, Cheshire and Lancashire run their finances and become tax efficient. That's our USP, our unique selling proposition. So you cross out the first bit. I show small businesses within Greater Manchester, Cheshire and Lancashire how to run their finances and be tax efficient. That's it. But in that one sentence and that one exercise of you should buy my, because, I have created the whole structure and approach to how my business should market and develop itself in every aspect of the activities that they do. Think about it. I help small businesses. So immediately I'm saying I'm not a corporate. Immediately I'm saying, if you are a corporate and you're looking for that, we're not the people for you. But vice versa, positively, I'm saying to the small businesses of the area, I'm your guy. So in that way, I have to use the same language and the same approach to them as they understand and accept. There's no point me having city centre Manchester offices in a skyscraper wearing three-piece Savile Row suits, because that doesn't appeal immediately to a small business. And it's also going to set my price point, because of my overheads, beyond the small business. I'm also saying I'm local, which means you can pop in, pandemic aside, you can pop in and actually see a person. Now, I tend to be hard to see because I'm so popular. Yeah, I know. I don't mean it in personality terms. I mean in terms of the knowledge that I actually give and have people want, and therefore I tend to be the popular one in the firm. But you can see others a lot more easily than me, but you can pop in. We're local, we'll deal with you, we come out to you. I certainly will happily drive out to anyone within that geographic patch. If you ring me up from Southampton wanting me to come, it's going to have to be a bloody good reason why I'm going to actually come and see you, because there's plenty of other people who can do what I do within your geographic patch. It also then sets out, though, what I'm going to do in terms of advertising and marketing and all the tools, because hell, 2004, I first turned on Google AdWords, and I literally went on and created an account and wrote the word accountant for Google AdWords, and it set a budget, and I was generous, and I put a £200 budget on it. And that's the sort of money, by the way, small businesses like yourselves should be looking to spend. It's not thousands on this stuff. None of this is thousands. But my £200 got spent in about 3 nanoseconds, because what I didn't know at that point was I was buying the word accountant everywhere in the entire world. And I was getting hits on my adverts in Tokyo and Las Vegas. Brilliant. Trip to Tokyo. Hooray. Not much use in terms of actually promoting my small business. So when I'm actually focusing a tool, Google AdWords, on it, I am focusing it within my USP, the area I serve, the businesses I serve. with what I do. And I'm clearly setting out at the beginning to the people that work with me what they can expect. I'm going to show you how to run your finances and be tax efficient. I'm not going to automatically, there's plenty of other things I can do as an accountant, as an estate planner, as a business owner. And I have several different businesses, by the way, for those of you that have never come across me, in several different industries, and I'm involved in lots of stuff. It's not just accountancy for me. I own a franchise car washing business. I have been owner of a number of other franchises. I have a chicken chain restaurant in etc. But in this, I'm clearly defining what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do your bookkeeping. I'll show you how to run your finances, but I'm not going to do it. I'll produce something that's tax efficient. I'll help you be tax efficient. That's the knowledgeable part of what I'm doing. So in one sentence, I have clearly defined what I'm offering, to whom I'm offering, and truthfully, what price I'm going to be offering it. And I can then build up everything behind it because I can establish what type of image and approach I am going to put into that business. It's very different than saying offering consultancy to, I don't have an appropriate strapline. I do on the original thing because I actually compare and contrast straplines to this, but there is a large consultancy firm that says we help international companies to establish their competitive strategy. Now, truthfully, I actually could do that with somebody, but small businesses are not interested, and it's not within that realm. And if I turn up with my setup to that consultancy's clients, everything about it is going to look wrong. Another practical example for you. Carter Collins and Meyer is the third firm that I have helped create, or did create. My business partners always may have different views on this, but let's just keep it as me because this is my talk. We initially sublet space, or had space, office space, within a football agency that had some prestigious clients. We got a cheap deal. But it actually became a bit of a problem because these offices were wow. And coming up in the lift were first team Manchester United players. I know nothing about football, by the way, but I know enough about who some of these people are. So I would be having plumbers and brickies coming up in the lift with Wayne Rooney. Wasn't Wayne Rooney, but you get the point. And they would walk into these magnificent offices and decide that clearly I was far too expensive and far out of their price bracket. Now, we weren't, but I had clearly set the stall out wrong from the beginning. So if you are looking to grow and develop your own professional service firm and you are wanting to try and turn it into £1 million practice, you need to have a very, very clearly defined written statement of who you are, what you're offering, and who you're offering it to. Without that, nothing else will follow, and you will likely use the wrong tools for the wrong job. This, as you may have gathered, being almost halfway through, is not an exploration of the specific tools. I will talk of those in a moment. That's actually my next section, and I've written some of this in my book. And even there, I'm not going to waffle on to you about how to set up an AdWords account or the specific wording that should be put. There's plenty of people far more knowledgeable than I am about those. And I would urge you to look at other courses and setups and things for those. And I will happily on the replay put some links down the bottom to specifics of those. I mentioned previously Drayton Bird. I would also give a very large shout out to Dan Kennedy for a lot of his material. There's some terrific written books on this subject. One that catches my eye on my own thing there, Robert Collier's Letter Book. Excellent thing of specifically how to copyright and what to do. If in doubt on some of those specifics, you've got things like Fiverr and you've got people per hour that you can come across. That's not the point. The point is trying to get an establishment of who it is that you want to be, what it is that, why you want to be it, who it is you are, what do you then have to do to get there. So, having identified the target market for you, consider before diving in if that is actually appropriate. On these, when I do this in person and it runs all day, one of the sessions that I actually have in this is to try and find out about the people listening to the call or listening to the course. And it's very relevant for the professional services side of this more so, well, for any business you're actually in. But let's keep to the professional services for a moment. One particular person that came on a course had previously been a senior executive in the engineering, chemical engineering businesses, and was a chemical engineer by background, and truthfully knew almost everything there was to know about the industry of chemical engineering. He knew all the various players and he knew all the people in it, and he spent 30 years. That meant he should have become, this was an estate planning will writers course, he should have become the estate planning and will writing guru of chemical engineers. Because every chemical engineer that has ever been needs estate planning. If you have a background in something, or you are interested in that thing, that becomes an automatic target market for you. Because you can speak the language of that and you know where they hang out. On another one of these courses, I actually had a solicitor come on and they wanted to move more in towards will writing. They were taking the will write, they joined the Society of Will Writers, and they were struggling to get work. They'd always been handed it in the past from the solicitor's firm that they'd come into, and they didn't understand how to go and get work. And I said, well, you've been a solicitor for 25 years. You know the world. You know the lawyer's world. You know where solicitors and barristers and everyone else hangs out. Why don't you become the solicitor's will writer? Because certainly if solicitors are anything like accountants or lawyers, I'm going to include the wider spectrum, or anything like accountants, the last tax return I ever do is my own. And the number of times I have been late is often. So although lawyers may well sit and say, you should have a will, you should have a will, you should have a will, how many of them actually do it? Wouldn't you be much better off concentrating on them and going and talking to them individually? Don't try and get their clients. Don't try and talk to their clients about it. Talk to them as individuals. You get the point. If you've got something, I had another guy that was into boating and yachting, then become the boating and yachting specialist. I have always been to martial arts. Since that height and 6 years old, I've been involved in karate or jiu-jitsu or judo or Krav Maga or one of the martial arts. And I set my stall out, and not entirely, it's not my entire business, but one of parts of my accountancy firm is to be a specialist provider of accountancy to martial artists, because I know that world, I know where they are, I know how to talk to them. If you have that already, go after that. If I was considering going into the clothing business, one of the things I would seriously consider going into was provider of martial arts gis, the suit that you wear, because I know what they should be. I know the quality they should have. I know the qualities they should have. The process of how to manufacture them, I don't have at this point, but I could learn and grow and develop into that. So if you've got some natural knowledge or some area of expertise to begin with, become that. If I was setting out a will writing and estate planning business, I would go after accountants, because I know accountants. I know what they're like. I know how to talk to them. I know what would get me through the door. Not the accountant's clients, because the accountants are like this with their clients. They're very protective of them. It's a common thing that others come along thinking that the accountant will just hand over this client list, and they won't. The accountants themselves will talk to you. And in so doing, you may end up with the clients of the accountant. But start there with that knowledge that you have specifically, and start with that approach, because it's the easiest place to go from. And no one else will likely be doing it. In the chemical engineering guy's example, I said to him, run small box adverts. We actually worked out the writing. We actually came up with the specific copywriting for it. Run small adverts of this size in Chemical Engineering Weekly, or whatever it was his periodical that they had. And he subsequently fed back to me that he had more work than he could cope with off these adverts that were costing next to nothing, because he was the only will writer, estate planner in it. We wrote it carefully so that they actually appeal to these people, and he became known in that industry. Now, the tools around that, I've got 57 in my book, and I'm going to have to read them, so I don't remember off the top. But some of this, I've already spoken of some of these, so I'm going to run through it. Some of the other tools to do to establish what it is you are able to be good at. A SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis is a piece of paper with a cross drawn in it. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. What are you good at? What are you bad at? What opportunities do you have? What's the challenge? Write that out. Have that on a piece of paper, look at it. Again, it's to help establish what it is you should go after, what's good. We've talked about those. Systems. No, that's point number 4. I'll come back to that. Apply the latest technology. Right. The latest technology on this doesn't mean you have to turn yourself into a guru. And the latest technology isn't even the latest technology. Do you have a list of customers? The number of people I will talk to as an accountant, as a professional provider, who do not have a list of customers. You can do it in a diary. You can do it on an Excel spreadsheet. You can upgrade that into something better. It is easier today to spend a little time linking together some of the apps that are around with an accounting system to create an environment within your small business that in the past would have only been available to large corporates than it has ever been. If you are on a mainstream accountancy system, a QuickBooks, a Xero, a Sage, there are so many other things that can link to that are cheap and easy to use. If you can use social media and an iPhone, you can use these apps that will allow you to communicate and coordinate what you do. Booking systems. Calendly, for example. I moved over to Calendly about a year ago, and it has significantly improved my own life and, believe it or not, access to me. Because all of the telephone tennis of trying to arrange appointments disappeared, and clients got a clear view of how busy I actually can be. And I know busy is a 4-letter word that you're not supposed to use. Business is great, and we're looking for more, but let's be honest, when you're in the midst of it, you're busy. And by they couldn't see the individual detail, but by clearly seeing the appointment blocks that were in my diary on an online system, they can understand why it takes 2 weeks to get an appointment with me. And maybe you want to see my business partner, Andy, instead, who can see you in 2 days. Now, Calendly is about $10 a month. I think it is $10 a month, actually, per person. MailChimp. When the pandemic of earlier this year hit, the best thing I had at that point was a complete list of everybody of clients I have dealt with or deal with on MailChimp with email. it meant I could be putting out at one point twice daily summaries and write-ups, not hard techie stuff, but written in English to the small businesses I work with of what it is they needed to do to get as much government support as they could get at that point. The amount of goodwill that that created for us as a business was vast, absolutely vast. But MailChimp costs $20 a month. This is not expensive stuff. It's just simply that process of doing it. Survey your customers. If you have customers, survey them regularly. Survey. The best, if you've got time, is contact them in person, physically speak to them. Resolve complaints. Now, resolving complaints can actually be getting rid of people. There are times where you don't want that individual person, but get rid of it quicker rather than allowing it to fester. It is sometimes better to just write off that piece of work, let them move on and get rid of them than it is to actually have it fester. But the resolving of the complaint to get it out of your mindset is the best thing you can do. Like all sales, complaints are best summarized by I can't remember his name, Nev, I think it was. There was a call center in South Wales featured on a program, a real one. It was a fly on the wall documentary type thing. And he had a phrase that he used to regularly put out to his staff of some will, some won't, so what, next. Awesome in all sales. Some will, some won't, so what, next. Also in complaint management. Think of it that way. It's not personal. You've got somebody on the other end of this who is unhappy for some reason. Some of the best ways to do it is move them on as fast as you can and get them out of your world. Conduct a focus meeting. Focus meetings can be done readily on Zoom. You get together people that deal with you and ask them what's going on. Call it a mastermind class, have other people involved in it, whatever you want to do. Offer money back guarantees. Survey your competitors. Well worth doing. Talk to your team. Right, here we get into some real stuff. No second chance to make a first impression. That no second chance to make a first impression very much leads back to who it is you want to be. If you don't know who it is you want to be, you don't know what impression to give to people. As I say, if I'd come on this call sitting in a tower overlooking the city in a three-piece suit, it gives a very different impression than sitting in my home office with a painting on the wall and my red sofa and the cat wandering backwards and forwards. But I am aiming at small businesses and therefore want to be approachable. And therefore, I'm happy to show you sitting in my home office with. You get the point. Answer the phone. Now, there's a small business marketing tip and practice management and strategy beyond anything. How many places do you ever contact that don't answer the phone? And we're as guilty as anybody else. I'm not saying Carter Collins is perfect, because we're not. But again, making use of the most current technology can sometimes solve that. If you're a complete one-man band, seriously look about having your phones put out to a phone answering service. There are dozens of them. The two most well-known are Moneypenny and All Day PA, but there are dozens and dozens of them. We've used both of those in the past. We do have an overflow service on our phone that if it rings too many times, it then goes out to an overflow. But even sometimes that falls apart. But if you're a one-man band, Bricky in a van on his own, or the car wash guys that we have, they don't have the time or the opportunity to answer that phone quickly. Get it dealt with, though. Outsource it. Technology is amazing on those ones. Sit on Google and read. Make your reception a special area. Now, if you are office-based, I wholly believe this. The comparable of this is if you're visiting, I will give to you now. So in my reception, if we know you're coming, we will save you a car parking space. It'll have your name on it in the car park. When you come in, we have the TV on. If it's not the news channel, we'll actually have welcome to John Smith today and the Times, various people are coming. We have a menu of drinks. And they all exist, and you can have a variety of different teas and coffees. You can have soft drinks. We even actually keep a bottle of champagne in the fridge and offer that. And the only person that's ever taken me up on it ever was another accountant who came to visit me. We offer those. Depending on what it is that you ask for, we actually write that down. The next time you come, you then get your espresso that you always ask for, etc. None of that is expensive, but it's very welcoming. We have a range of magazines available. We have our own references put out in the book, and we try and see you fairly quickly. We don't want you having to hold yourself up. We offer you free Wi-Fi if you're in our office. If it's around lunchtime, we will offer you a sandwich, and we have a range of our branded umbrellas sitting there. So if it's pissing down outside, you can take an umbrella and advertising on top of it. The comparable, if you're visiting a lot, is take something with you. Never turn up empty-handed. If you're visiting a client, take some cakes, take some biscuits, buy 5 packs of digestives a day and take them to every client you turn up to. Take the coffee with you. Do something. Take something with you. Never be empty-handed. It's always appreciated, and it always makes that impression. And if you think of the cost of a packet of digestive biscuits when you turn up somewhere, the difference it makes is vast, and it gets a conversation going as well. You turn up with a pack of biscuits, a whole pack of, the smaller pack of digestives. I don't mean the 3s, the half pack thing. Turn up with those, and you can turn it into the, oh, come on then, you open the biscuits and get the coffee on, and then you can go from there. The best opening line, everybody's opening line ever on these things should always be as well, so how did you get to this point? Why are we here? In businesses, if you're going after, I literally use, well, how did you get into this business? And get them going from that situation. But it's a conversation starter by having that. Develop a brand identity. Now, that's the stuff that you'll find loads of talks about, and people will be like, yeehaw, brands, it's all amazing. The brand identity is a consistent image. Our consistent image is black and white. That's what we use. And it is deliberately designed to look like we have been around forever. The point of it is to make it like, well, in all reality, we can trace Carter Collins and Meyer to 1957. That was the original thing of it. And we bought a firm that has that history. And we want our firm to look like it is that old, because we want people to trust that we have the skills and knowledge and judgment in it. So we use black and white on everything. It's cheap, it can run off a printer, but it's consistent. We always have the same font, we always have the same logo, it always looks the same, it's always presented in the same way. And that's, in small businesses, what you need. You don't want it that the font on your business card looks different to the font on your letterhead. Create a consistent image to it, but pay for it once, have it straightforward, use it over and over again. Now, if you are sending hard copy of things out and you are a professional service firm, small business, and you're trying to develop it, once upon a time, I would have sat here and said, you want letterhead and logos and business cards that have at least 3 colors on them, because that separates you from everybody else. Nowadays, I actually say the opposite. You don't want any color on it, because everybody has color on them nowadays, and they've all got those. What you actually want to do is be black and white and use good quality paper. That's how you separate nowadays, because nobody uses good quality paper anymore. Nobody has Conqueror Laid anymore. Now, it is more expensive, but it's no more expensive than having colored letterheads done. So separate yourself that way, which is what we do. Build a help sheet system. So if you're a professional service firm, you want a series of help sheets available that's out. Create a freebie kit. The freebie kit, when you sign up to us, we'll send you a personalized mug. Get them off Vistaprint. Literally, this is Robert's, and this is me, action-taking mug. Get them off Vistaprint. We'll send it out to you. It's a freebie for signing up with us. Yeehaw, great. Make sure you get testimonials. Now, historically, I've got a book full of testimonials, handwritten and typed up. Nowadays, this is more about Google. This is more about getting it on Trustpilot or whichever one of those platforms you use. That's a separate talk in itself, but get the people to review you. And if you get bad ones, deal with it. A, respond, and B, deal with it. Develop a brochure. Now, people think brochures need to be massively complicated documents. If you see if I have one over here. No, that's not. Well, actually, this isn't one of mine, but this actually serves. This is a brochure from checkertrade.com. And you don't need any more than this, right? This is one piece of paper folded. In fact, I think it should be folded that way. Right. I actually think a trifold. So instead of this opened into 4, I think you can have it as opening into 3. Every small business that particularly professional service firm, small business, should have something like this. Who you are, the address, the back should be a map, how to get to you, your contact details, what you offer should be down there, what your clients say about you should be there, response form should be there. I will put a PDF download of mine on the replay of this, but you should have that. You should have a business card. Ideally, you should have your photograph on the business card so they can remember you. It should be on the back with some comment of, you know, in my case, I'd have it on the back with, we help small businesses within Greater Manchester, Lancashire and Cheshire, or we show small businesses within Greater Manchester, Lancashire and Cheshire how to run their finances and be tax efficient. And that's a picture of me, contact details on the other side. I am in the personally, I'm in the incredibly privileged position of not having a business card. Yes, I don't have one because I am not actively seeking to develop the business beyond where it is. I produce enough referral work into us at this stage from our existing clients who are happy and satisfied with what we do. They are sending other clients that I now no longer need them. Very lovely place to be, very privileged place to be, but that's what you should have. Photograph, there's my photograph on the back there of the book, photograph, wording, thing on the other side. Send e-newsletters, already talked about that, MailChimp. Send hard copy newsletters. Now, hard copy newsletters should not be highly glossy, professionally printed documents. Nobody reads those. They know they're bought in and standard. You should once a year write a letter of 3 to 4 paragraphs and a header and a PS, and the header and the PS will be the 2 things that will be read to every client you have worked with or customer. Even if you're in a box shifting business, write to the customer. Dear customer, thank you for working with us in 2020. 4 paragraphs about what's gone on in the business, what's going to happen in the business, and other ways that you can help them. WAIFM, what's in it for me? How you can help other people. Okay, with the PS of the closing message, some sort of promotion. Bring this letter to me in January and we'll give you 10% off, whatever it is you want to do. Write at least once a year to everybody. Best piece of marketing you can do. And do not discount direct mail. I still send 2,500 direct mail packs out a month. The 2,500 mail packs go to businesses we don't currently work with. It is a whole topic on its own as to what should go through it, but fundamentally it should be a coloured envelope, a letter, a brochure, something to keep, like a pen. We actually send a pen, a pad, and a beer mat. The letter should be a header, 3 paragraphs, a PS. The point of direct mail is to get an appointment. It is a numbers game. You get about a 1 to 1.5% response rate. You will see half of that, and you will sign a proportion of that depending on your own ability to convert sales, which again is a separate course in itself. I'm conscious of my time and your time because you're listening to me as well. But that direct mail piece works increasingly so because no one's doing them. Okay. Send welcome letters, send thank you letters. Anybody who buys from you, welcome them, thank them. It can be on postcards. Postcards are very strong for that. Again, you can find a million designers for these things on people per hour, and currently we use solopress.co.uk, and I'm not connected to them. I don't get anything from them to do low level or low runs of printing. It can all be done online. You just upload the design that you've got. I find that ace. If you've got a printer that you use, know and trust, great, wonderful, use them. I'm not saying convert from them. It's just something for those of you that haven't. Make follow-up phone calls, write articles and things like this. It is amazing how much work comes out of things like this. People say, why do you spend your time doing webinars like this? Because the amount of work that comes out of it. I'll tell you, it's as simple as that, right? The amount of work, the amount of relationships that come out of me doing these type of talks is vast. My first firm of accountants specialized in dentists and was entirely built on old-fashioned CPD, where I turn up in a room and talk about dental accounts. And I ended up with 650 dentists doing that. So do not discount doing things like this, giving speeches, run seminars and webinars, participate in trade associations. And again, that can generate huge amounts of work. I support as the tax function, not the compliance, the complicated tax function of half a dozen firms of accountants who are smaller than I am because they don't have that expertise. And the fees generated from that last year were probably about £50,000. Not to be sniffed at for stuff that I can do happily and readily. They're doing the front-facing and controlling of it. So be involved. And particularly if you actually have a niche in something, if you're trying to be the estate planner for the chemical engineering industry, keep picking on that because it's in my head, get involved in the trade association of the chemical engineering industry, because that way you are already there, you already know about them, you can easily and readily talk about what it is that you do. Vice versa, some of the best things for that are local sports clubs. If you're in a local sports club, I'll pick my own martial arts. I love martial arts. I'm into those anyway, and I'd happily do it. But martial arts clubs have a significant proportion of children in them. They always do, because kids always learn it, and adults are separate classes, but right, yeah. The children all have parents. The parents all have jobs. A lot of those jobs are often self-employed. By me sponsoring the martial arts club, I get to put a banner up and present a prize to the kids and all this kind of stuff, and therefore create conversations with the parents. And when I find out that Jimmy's dad is the electrician, the conversations eventually turns around to tax and accountancy, and lo and behold, I've got another prospect. Attend trade shows. I would suggest attending trade shows at least once a year. I know this year has been weird, but you should be going to trade shows to learn what's going on and how it can be useful for you. Hold open house. Again, pandemics stops this, but at least once a year we hold an open house. It's easier for us, I know, because we have offices. You may not be, but we invite people. If you don't, pick a local pub, put so much money behind the bar, buy everyone a free drink, bring them down, get coffee, put sandwiches on, get them coming to you, have a reason to talk to you. Again, one of the things I have done in the past is literally sat in I actually sat on one occasion in a pub with a pop-up banner saying, knowing there was a construction site opposite, saying builders tax returns done. Now I had to pay the pub in beer. What I had to do was buy so many pints of beer to sit there with this. But what it meant is the construction workers would have a free pint of beer and talk to me about their tax returns that they needed to be done, because most construction workers can get a tax refund. And I got the tax work out of it. And believe me, for the paying of the £5 for a pint of Guinness or whatever we were buying, it was well worth it. Again, conscious of time, so I'm going to have to start moving on. Gifts, gimmicks, and giveaways. Pens are astounding. My wife is a nurse. I have actually had it where she was working in a hospital and somebody she doesn't normally work with from a different ward actually handed her one of our pens, right, which is always a bit weird. You see the point, the pens have got out into the world. Pens are a great one. There's loads of places online where you can have these done. People think this is old-fashioned nowadays. It's not. Small business is still based on this type of thing. Beer mats, placemats, another great one, littered and loosely and liberally everywhere. Umbrellas, fleeces, all of that stuff is a great call to action. Pads sit on people's desks. I haven't got any to hand, but pads sit on people's desks. Really cheap and cheerful stuff that make a hell of a difference on it. Now, go to lunch. Again, difficult at these times, I know, but going to lunch, I had the senior partner of the firm I trained at would bring in £250,000 a year of work by going to lunch with people. Now, I know times have changed and all that, and 3-hour lunches are not what they once were, but to this day, a lot of people will still agree to go to lunch with you if you are buying, and it doesn't have to be expensive. Get to know a local pub that has sandwiches on, invite people down there, talk to the publican, talk to the people, get used to it, get known there. you'll probably pick up you will pick up loads of work from doing this. Believe me, whatever industry you're in, any professional service you're in, if you sit doing that regularly, you will end up generating work from that just by talking and knowing people. Join a business referral group. There are several. I am lazy nowadays and can't be bothered to do them anymore. But in the past, I would go to the opening of an envelope. Things like Business for Breakfast, BNI, For Networking, all of these do work. Yes, you've got to be in a room at 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is you've got to do, and you've got to be nice to people, and you know, I'm a miserable old sod and all the rest of it, but they do work. Have a website. Now, you don't have to spend £10,000 on a website. You need no more than a one-page I am here website. If you are a professional service firm, what you absolutely should be doing is be on LinkedIn. By being on LinkedIn, joining in with conversations and being known within your community will immediately establish you as a credible source of professional knowledge to anybody that comes across you. Because what does everybody do nowadays if they find somebody? They Google them. They tap into Google and do it. If you wanted to try and create a website that got the same amount of attention from Google as LinkedIn does, you would have to spend tens of thousands, if not hundreds. Whereas if you regularly post on LinkedIn updates, I have a scheduled posting of updates on LinkedIn and use a $5 a month system called Postify, Postifty. And if you just put social media management, don't use Hootsuite and those, they're too expensive, but there's cheap ones you can find. Again, if you're stuck, send me an email, inquiries@uk-ccm.com, and I'll tell you the tools I use for this. But if you regularly post on there and regularly interact with people and regularly ask all of your customers and your clients to join you on LinkedIn and be linked together, anybody who then comes across you and types your name into Google will get that LinkedIn hit page within the first 5, 6. Right? You will be in the top part of the first page. Wow. You've just established your credibility. You've just established that you clearly know what you're talking about, who you are, and what it is your industry is in. And of all things for professional service people, you should be doing that. That is your use of social media. Do I think you should be advertising on Facebook? Possibly. Never worked for me. I'm not against it, but I think you can waste an awful lot of money. Do I think you should be doing AdWords? Yes, but to a limited amount. You should be spending no more than a couple of £100 a month on it, but you certainly need a website first. And if you're going to do anything, do that LinkedIn thing. Write an action plan coming from this, and make sure you get close advisors. I mentor a number of small businesses. I'm always happy to talk to you. There is a cost for doing that, but it becomes a very useful coaching process if you want to go through it. Which leads me to, and we're going to close at this point, systems. You need system structure and infrastructure in all developing professional service firms. Systems need to be written down. If you have never come across the E-Myth, E is entrepreneur, and it is a book by Michael Gerber. The E-Myth Revisited can be purchased secondhand on Amazon for a few pounds. Michael Gerber, the E-Myth Revisited. Do it. Fundamentally, it is treat your small business as if it is going to become a franchise and how to create systems. Because, and this is the final thought, if you do not create systems and make this run for £1 million firm, you will end up with an elephant. What I mean is, and here's I'm going to read it because I want to get it right. The 4 phases of owning an elephant. And this is from direct experience. Phase number 1, you buy an elephant. You are bigger than it. You see a great future ahead with no problems. Your only concern is that you don't have the skills at managing an elephant. But that won't matter. And off you go. Phase 2, the elephant grows much bigger than you are. You are no longer strong enough to control it, and it takes over your whole life. It pulls you along, wreaking and wrecking destruction in its wake. Standing behind it, it blocks your entire vision, and you can neither see where you are going or what it is doing. You are so preoccupied by being dragged along by it that you don't think there is going to ever be a way to bring it under control. This is ruining your quality of life. Does this sound familiar? Phase 3. You are one of the rare ones who decides to take advice on how to become a pucker elephant handler. You realize that in order to control your elephant, it is no use walking behind it, ineffectually holding on to its reins as it pulls you along. You accept that you have to take a wholly different approach and that you will have to learn how to manage your elephant to get the most out of it. To do this, you have to know how to sit on top of your elephant, where you can not only see where you're going, but also what it's doing, and with just a gentle touch of your feet on its ears, steer the elephant in the direction you want it to go. In the shortest time now, you are running the elephant instead of it running you. As a result of accepting that you needed help, and as a result of taking professional advice, you are fulfilling your original dreams. And phase 4, once you have learned how to control your elephant, and it won't take long, you can hire and train your own elephant handler to manage your elephant for you while you sit back in a canopied stand behind, enjoying the views. That has been a 1 hour and 4 minute guide to building a £1 million professional practice. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Rob Newman. I am the tax partner of Carter, Collins and Meyer, accountants in North Manchester. We look after small businesses. If I can help in any way, please do let me know at inquiries@uk-ccm.com. Please do also go to my YouTube channel, Carter, Collins and Meyer. This will be put up there for replay together with some of the things that I've referred to. If you do want a copy of my book about this particular subject, drop me an email and I'll give you a PDF link. Thank you so much for listening.